Welcome to the video. This is going to be my 2024 recap, so let's get into it. So I think January I started off with a bit of a rebrand. I started with a new set of candles. So I've been doing candles before which were just nice candles. I was doing things like lavender, there's Earl Grey, there's rose, you know, your bog standard nice candles. And I thought they were going quite well. They were going okay. Like I was selling a few, but I just didn't think they stood out enough in the marketplace. They weren't like scroll stopping worthy enough. I think they just blended into the myriad of other candles in the world. So after doing a bit of research and looking at brands like Liquid Death, I decided to try and do something a bit more different, a bit more quirky. So that was sort of the first like iteration of doing something a bit out there. So this one's like a thunderstorm one. It's like a petrichor rain scent. So the label was a bit unusual and I thought it might just stand out and look slightly different. You either love it or hate it. That's kind of what I was going for, that kind of Marmite effect. So that's sort of January, February working on these. I had a really good December in 2023, but I just felt like there's something missing. I just didn't quite have my niche nailed down. I was trying to appeal to everyone. I was trying to just get a piece of everyone's pie and copy what's successful and try and, I don't know, I wasn't creating my own thing. It just, something wasn't quite right. So that's where we started with this. And I sold quite a few of them. I did Thunderstorm, I did Bookshop, I did like a fireplace and a steam train. So I did like 5 like different quirky ones and they sold quite well and I was quite happy with that for a bit, but I still didn't feel 100% set on it. Like the sort of drippy logo and stuff, it was a bit Halloweeny. So I think I was also having issues as well with like wax at that time. I was settled on SCX wax, so you see you get like a lovely glass adhesion with that, and they kept going out of stock and they kept upping their prices. So it went from 25 kilos of SCX wax to, which was about 135, 140 pounds, to 20 kilos of wax at still like 140, 145 pounds. So by the time you've paid your VAT and your shipping, it was getting quite a lot of money for SCX wax, and they kept going out of stock. I found another supplier which had similar wax with similar properties, but they also kept going out of stock, and they were such a small business they'd like take a bit of time off here and there, which is fine, but it's just not very useful for me trying to buy wax and scale. So I was struggling at that point with getting a good wax that was reliable, that I could get from a supplier that had it all the time, and I didn't want to commit to doing something if I couldn't do it properly. So I ended up having a bit of a think and a bit of a brainstorm. So that sort of January, February, doing that, and they worked quite well. And then March time, I sort of paused for a bit because I couldn't find the wax I wanted. And I just couldn't really think of a way to scale. I hadn't quite unlocked the skill set in my brain in order to scale properly. At that time, I could only make 30 of these in one go. Whereas really, for me to make enough money to make it worthwhile, I need to make hundreds really in a week, or a couple hundred. So that led me to do a bit of research. I was doing a few different YouTube videos, so I was doing lots of like candle comparisons. So I was going on Amazon and I was buying things like this and just rating them to see if they were any good. Like, are they going to be are they going to be better than my candles, or such and so forth? Because I was just a bit concerned if my candles were any good as well. I'd have a few reviews saying they couldn't really smell anything, the scent was a bit crap, or it just wasn't worth the money. And I think that's what you get on Amazon. The reviews are very harsh and just people don't treat it like a small business, whereas on my website the reviews are always very good. So I was always a bit dubious about SCX wax in terms of whether it actually had a good enough scent through it. It worked really well with some oils, but just didn't work at all with other oils. So I ended up buying a few candles and testing them and just seeing how good they were. Turns out they weren't that much better than mine. There were some good candles and some really bad ones, but they weren't much better than mine. So what I was looking for was some kind of holy grail of like mega candle scent, and it just didn't exist. So that kind of helped just give me a bit of a confidence boost that I was on the right track, but I still hadn't settled on a wax. So then I bought a Scent Evil candle, which comes in like a little tin. They do the sort of bay and rosemary one or something like that, and that's a really popular one. So I bought that and it just turned up in a tin, a bit like this. That's not theirs, this is mine. And I thought, actually, I could do something with that. If I can just send tins into Amazon, then I don't need to package them, I don't need to box them, so that's going to save some money. So I spent ages trying to reverse engineer what they were doing in terms of their like candle wax. So I think I managed to figure out what wax they were using and what wick. So I went about trying to just recreate my own range of candles, but using their ingredients. And that worked really well. So I started doing tins. So I started doing these tins, lots of different scents. I went sort of super quirky. So these are all AI generated backgrounds on Midjourney, and they stand out. They're super unique. I think they're sort of scroll stopping worthy. Like you look through that, you go, oh wow, that's cool. At least in my brain anyway. And that's kind of where I went down this, and it really helped just get my branding across, because in the beginning my branding was all over the place. I'd get new ideas, I'd try new things, and each thing was a little bit different, so it just wasn't cohesive branding. So in sort of March, April and May, I spent ages trying to create all of these, testing them, making sure they work. Lots of different wicks, lots of different things. They ended up being like a paraffin blend, so that was a paraffin mixed with soy. And it just took a while to wick them properly, just to make sure they worked perfectly. Some of the paraffin waxes, they just burn a lot differently compared to soy. You need a much smaller wick to get the same sort of melt pool, whereas with the soy candles, you need a hefty wick to get a decent melt pool. So it's kind of a bit of a puzzle trying to figure that out. So that took ages, but I managed to do it. I managed to make some candles I was really happy with that had really good scent throw. So I launched, I think about 10 or 12 different scents. In June, I launched them on Amazon and on my website after taking a bit of a break. So, and that's when these went, and they went really well. I started off trying to leverage my social media, because I've got quite a good following on Instagram, and lots of people are sort of invested in my journey and they've been buying candles for a long time. So I did a bit of an offer and I sold them really cheap just to try and get some reviews and boost the rankings, and that worked really well. So I think in June I sold 400 of these just in June, which is crazy because June isn't a candle month. That is summertime. Who's buying a candle in the summer? But then I run across the first issue with these is they still get wrecked in delivery. They were getting battered from maybe being transported, going from warehouse to warehouse, and I'd say 15% of the time they would turn up wrecked, and I'd be getting quite a lot of reviews. So I had to have a little think again and work out whether I actually wanted to box them. You can see there's a bit of a dent in that one, so it doesn't take a lot for them to get damaged. So then I think June, July, they sold really well. I was selling 400 a month, June and July, and then I decided I needed to box them, so we ended up with these little gift boxes. Now that increased the original cost of goods, but that's fine. But it just made the whole thing look much more like a gift. So that's in there, it's wrapped in tissue paper, and it looks really good. And I just ended up spending a bit more time trying to scale stuff, so I got another worktop, and I went from being able to make like 30 or 40 to maybe a couple of hundred a week. In my peak, I was making and shipping 150, 200 candles. So it definitely works. And once you start to think in a bigger sort of scale and bigger frame, then you can do more or less anything. So I ended up with these, and these have worked out really well. I'm really happy with them. I've had the most amount of sales I've ever had. So everything just grew from June, July, August, 400, and then September hit and I sort of sold 500, and then October went crazy, ended up selling like 700, and then November ended up selling over 1,200 candles in total, and then December was about 900. So the sort of scale of the candles going up just went absolutely ballistic, and this, I don't know, it just resonated on Amazon and it just picked up. I started getting some good reviews, a few bad ones here and there, but you're never going to please everybody. That's kind of something I've come to terms with. Whereas before I was trying to make the perfect candle, I was trying to appeal to everyone, I was trying to please everyone, but it's just not possible. Even with these, all the scent throws are really good, I'm really happy with it, but sometimes people don't like them for long enough. Maybe their sense of smell is subjective, like sometimes it just doesn't work. So overall, I've had the best success I've ever had with these. I think February, I was pretty much ready to give up. Like March, I just didn't feel like it was working. I didn't feel like I could make a good enough candle. I didn't really have a direction, but now I've got all of my marketing sort of in place and it all makes sense. I know what direction I'm going with it and I know what I'm doing, but I've also tried a lot of different things in this process. So where are we? I've tried doing bigger candles in these amber jars. I've got these woodwick ones I tried doing in the big tins. And then I've got these in these sort of jars, which I think I'm probably going to do and go forwards. So some nice big 400 gram jars. Bought these earlier in the year to try and do something with. I bought this massive thing to try and do a massive candle in. I started doing a few wax melts in these. I started trying to get my own private label lip balm going, which is really cool. But each one of these cost me £2. By the time I stuck a label on it, sent it, I was selling it for £5. I was making about 50p per one, so it just isn't worth the effort doing it. I could probably do it as a bundle and get it to work quite well, but something I stopped. It just didn't feel worth my time. Really, I want to be getting £5 minimum profit per thing to actually make it worthwhile. So that's pretty much recap of the whole year. So a lot of things have gone really well, a lot of things have gone really badly, but it's been a learning curve along the way. So now I know exactly what I'm doing, what directions we're going to go in. So 2025 will be a good year. Let's have a quick look at all the sort of numbers, how much money I've actually made from everything. So let's have a look at Amazon first. So in the whole of last year, I have sold 4,215 candles in a year, which is absolutely mental. And this basically all comes from June to December. That's where the bulk of it happened because of the tins and me being able to scale and me being able to do more and just treating it like a proper business. Before that, I just didn't really treat it like a business. And that nets me £67,000 in actual revenue, which is fucking nuts when I actually look at it. That's absolutely crazy. And the advertising fee for that whole period was £4,600, and the estimated net profit from that after the cost of goods and everything, just from Amazon and their fees, is about £17,141, which is a margin of 25%, which is pretty good going. That's not too bad. But Amazon do take a lot of fees, so that's £26,000 in fees from Amazon. There's all sorts in there, but we'll talk about that another day. I like to think of it now as dancing with the devil. You kind of, I don't know, it's got its pros and cons, Amazon, so you either love it or you hate it. And then let's have a look at my Shopify. The whole of last year I sold £10,000 worth of candles, which is a lot more than I thought when actually going back to it. And I think, how many orders was that? Average order value was £26, so that's pretty good. And that was 366 orders in total. So I sold quite a lot on my website as well. And then a quick look at the YouTube. So for the past year, I've made $406. I've had 77,000 views. Watch time has gone up by 4,000, and I've gained 2,200 subscribers. So I'm trying to look behind my camera to see what's happening. So that's what I'm like doing this. So yeah, really happy with that. I think just doing YouTube consistently has made a big difference. I went from last December to making $5 a month to now making more like $40 to $50 a month. And I've just increased consistency with that and just doing it. And I've connected with a lot of people, had some good experiences, and I've created a bit of a community. So I'm really happy with YouTube. Something I want to double down on and just spend more time doing. And then Pinterest, I used to do quite a lot on Pinterest, but I don't think it provides any value. But just for instance, I get almost 700,000 views on my Pinterest every month. I haven't really done anything with the traffic yet, but it's just interesting to see how that's come from nothing to that. It's basically just blog articles and things like that. And then slightly unrelated to the candles, but I've also been doing Amazon Influencer. You basically make a little video review of a product and post it online. I've made £253 from that in the last year, which is sweet. Amazon affiliates are slightly different. There's links down below in the videos, and I've got links on my website and some on my blog. If people click it and buy something, I get a little bit of money. I've made £170 from that. And then I've also got a big blog section on my website which has ads on, and I've made $83 from that. So overall, it's been a pretty good year when I look back at everything and see how far I've come and how much I've made. Sometimes when you stand still, it doesn't really feel like you're making any progress, but when I break down all those numbers, it's getting well on for almost £100,000 in a year, which is absolutely nuts to look at. So that's pretty much it. I think I'll have a different breakdown at some point when I go through all the figures properly on like a spreadsheet, but that's just a bit of a catch-up video, just everything that sort of happened in 2024. So overall it's been a super year, lots of ups and downs, lots of things have happened, but I've kept going, I've kept doing it consistently, and I think that's the main thing. If you stop and start, you're just always back at square one, always trying to climb that mountain again, and I've created almost such a snowball now. If I just keep doing something every day and adding to it, it's only going to go one direction and grow. So yeah, really happy with that. I think lots to talk about for 2025, so I'll create another video about that, my plans and everything going forwards. And yeah, thanks for everyone that's been watching these videos, all the new subscribers, all the lovely comments I've got. Hopefully this type of video just makes you realise it's possible. If you start something, you can take it anywhere. So to almost do £100,000 in a year is just absolutely crazy. So super pleased with that. It just, yeah, very interesting. Like I said, you don't really realise how far you've come until you've actually looked at all the figures. I knew I did alright, but yeah, crazy. Anyway, I'll leave the video there. If you find it useful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.